Greetings and welcome to What's Wrong with Wolfie. My name is Jason.
And I'm Rich.
And I'm Chris.
And this time we finally land into the movies of 1998. Yes, welcome. We finally land in 98. I think we dragged it out. We dragged out 97 long enough. I don't think we could have done it any longer, I don't think. But yes, we're into 1998, a year in which we were introduced to the Furbies.
Oh,
Microsoft released their new OS Windows 98. Britney Spears wanted her to hit her one more time. Google was founded, and the year Titanic won 11 Oscars. I just want to mention some of the other big films of the year that we ignored, including Saving Private Ryan, Armageddon, Lock, Stock and Two Smoking Barrels, The Avengers, and Spice World. In this episode, our picks for 1998 are The Truman Show, The X-Files movie, and Godzilla. But before we dive into these, there was a direct today, guys, and GoldenEye was finally announced for the Switch and Xbox.
Yay.
Rich was particularly excited, stating on WhatsApp he was rock hard after that announcement.
Mum listens to this podcast. That's right.
I'm sure she'll understand.
Yeah.
Yes, finally announced, Rich. Yeah, you was quite excited, mate, weren't you?
I was very excited, and then found out that it's not got online play on the Xbox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's almost like they're trying to make me pick up my Switch again. So
yes, which you should.
Touche, Nintendo, touche.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, quite excited. It's a newer version. It's not just the old N64 ROM, but getting dumped on there. I believe it's been a bit touched up and everything. So, and yeah, like you say, Rich, we found out that it's only the online play is like exclusive to the Switch version, which is very bizarre. But
it's the weirdest move, because in Nintendo being famous for just being very
anti-online,
averse to any kind of anything modern at all. Like, sure. I'm pretty sure they still send faxes in their office. Like, it's just, yeah. I mean, like your Microsoft, you play hardball. You don't have to agree to those terms. I mean, because you own Rare.
Sure. Yeah.
The whole GoldenEye thing is still a minefield legally. I still don't know what's what.
Mm-hmm.
I know in terms of the IP for that game, Nintendo owns it. I thought Rare owns the code, or maybe vice versa. Obviously, Activision own the license. They've done anything with it for God knows how long. Hell, is it even Activision now? I can't remember, because who's publishing the game by the Hitman people?
I have no idea.
Yeah, see, who knows?
No idea. Yeah,
but I'm very excited. I mean, I saw some screenshots. They did release some. It does look very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. Just the idea of being able to play it.
And I mean, like, if we've got like modern controls as well, if they've got the option now, so you can do that twin stick, I'm
sure.
That'd be
as a pig
fantastic.
and shit.
Yeah, because I think a few people mentioned that on Twitter today about the controls. Say good luck trying to play it with the Joy-Cons on the Switch because of the way the buttons are mapped. But if it is the newer version on the Switch, then hopefully we'll be able to remap the buttons ourselves and put them in better places.
Yeah. It's a shame they're not doing anything with that Xbox 360, the live arcade remake, whatever that was in development, that we all thought for the longest time was going to be the one that came out. But it is what it is. I'll take it. Shame.
Yeah, exactly. Just the fact that we will soon. I mean, no release date, time of recording, but soon we'll be able to play GoldenEye on the go. Wherever we are, it's just sweet.
That's what is making me just so happy. I have a Switch. It's just
yeah.
We can go online now. We can do multiplayer online against one another on the Switch.
Well, I'm all the way across the country from you guys, and Jason's all the way up the country from you. I'm like, fuck this. Yes, exactly. GoldenEye. Boom.
We can have GoldenEye evenings.
Log into a thing, and that's it. Off we go.
Oh.
It just won't be there when I throw the Switch across the room when I lose again.
Well, yeah, but that was when console controllers and TVs were pretty much indestructible.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
The
that's
amount of
true.
times I threw a controller at the glass CRT TVs and it didn't do a thing, it just bounced off and still worked. Okay.
I know,
I think
the wall was my
Look
target
at a
when I did
controller
it.
now and it's dead. But yeah, just like when you guys sent me a link, I was like, what? It's finally actually happening and it's not just rumours. It's like, wow.
Finally. Yeah, and understandably so. I think we would have seen this earlier if we didn't have the problems that we're having again, between Russia and Ukraine at the moment. But yeah, no, very excited, and maybe we'll talk about it more in the next Prepare to Fast Forward episode.
Mm-hmm.
So moving on, let's get into our picks of 1998. I'm very excited to talk about these films. I feel like we've probably all got quite a lot to say about them. So let's jump straight into Rich's choice. And Rich, what was your pick, mate, of 1998?
Mine is Roland Emmerich, and I think it was Dean Devlin was involved in this one as well. I think it was when there was still a partnership. It's Godzilla.
We know where he came from. We know how big he is.
His situation has become more complicated.
But our problems just multiplied.
He's pregnant.
What is this, virgin lizard?
You've got to find that nest before it's too late.
Otherwise, up to a dozen are going to be born. Think of it.
Godzilla.
Doesn't he need a mate?
Not if he reproduces asexually.
Where's the fun in that?
Rated PG-13.
And why? I mean, there was, as I mentioned at the beginning, there was quite a few banging films out this year, and why this one in particular?
I mean, simply, this isn't the best film of the year. You could say, in an argument, in a debate, it's not even necessarily a good film. I disagree with that. I actually think that it's very enjoyable. Is it a good Godzilla film? Probably not. Takes a lot of liberties. Obviously, this is the first time we had like a US adaptation. But as like just a monster in a city movie, it does a lot of good things. I know it angers a lot of the Godzilla diehards. It's a massive redesign, reimagining of the big man. He's basically a massive iguana, which, yes, it's not Godzilla, but I kind of like it for how they grounded the character. I think it was Patrick Totopoulos who designed it, and it does look really good. With his Jay Leno chin, and it looks very distinct. It really jumps out compared to the original Toho design. It's a film. It never feels like it drags. It has a good energy throughout. I mean, are the characters pretty lame? Yeah. I mean, Matthew Broderick is incredibly wooden and cheesy as Nick, and you've got, was it Maria Patillo, who I don't think's done anything since. She's kind of annoying in it. Other than that, you've just got a load of Simpsons alumni from Harry Shearer, Nancy Cartwright, Hank Azaria, who's brilliant in it. He's very, very good.
It was one of my favourites when I watched it back.
Yeah. And you've got God himself, Jean Reno.
Of course.
It just seems to tick a lot of boxes. It does things right. You have got a good cast. You've got, on the whole, very good special effects. Some do look ropey. They even looked ropey then. But there's other shots, they look fantastic, and they even hold up now, which is kind of confusing.
It kind of was... sorry to interrupt, but I was reading back about the effects a little bit, and they were saying that they had to put the film on a particular film or something, so the effects looked a lot shit than it should have, because it just wasn't quite the right time for it or something, or I can't quite remember exactly what was said, but it was something to do with the type of film that they had to use. So the effects were what suffered because of that decision. And I think the Blu-ray, I believe, is when they managed to go back and fix it and make it look better.
Okay. I'd be interested now to see how it looked when I had it on VHS and DVD. I watched it in 4K for this. So looked pretty good, I must say. And I think that's probably why we sort of talk about the visual effects. And in this film, pretty much about 90%, if not 100% of it, is there's basically rain in every shot. It's raining throughout the film constantly. And it could be part of why they're trying to mask in the visual effects somewhat. It's like when they shoot stuff at night. It's just a good way to kind of blend things in, hide the weaknesses, accentuate the positives, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just a very good film, in my opinion. It gets dumped on a lot, and I don't think it deserves it. I feel like sometimes it's one of these films that it's kind of almost in a way like Super Mario Brothers. It seems to be cool to dump on it. I mean, you could say it's probably the lesser of all the Roland Emmerich stuff, other than obviously Independence Day, regurgence. That's a very low bar. It worked, and I think one of the big things, and probably the reason why I chose it for this year, it marked a point in movie going, whether it was because of the age we were at, or if it was just where the industry was at the time. But you had those real big tentpole summer movies, and the hype that was built around this film. The early teaser trailers, we had like the Natural History Museum and like Godzilla's foot coming through the glass and like crushing the T-Rex skeleton. You had the whole fisherman scene on the jetty. They built up this real hype about it. They didn't show anything. You saw a foot, but you never saw Godzilla until like you saw the film. They kept it close to their chest, which is similar to what they did with the 2014 Gareth Edwards movie. They really kept it to themselves. They didn't just spunk it all over the promotional stuff, and you went in knowing what the creature looked like, how it played out, and that I really respected. And I was 14, 15 when this came out, so I really appreciated that. I was hyped going into this film. I watched all the specials they had on ITV when they used to have the old movies, games and videos segments, and watching used to get the premiere on ITV, like the when they did the red carpet thing, like late on ITV on a Saturday night or something. Anytime they would do like the press junket stuff, any promotional stuff about this film, I was there, like just so excited to see any clips about it. And yeah, we have films these days that are hyped, but it doesn't feel the same anymore. No. And this was probably the last of its kind. I think we had Jurassic Park, 5 years previous, and you felt the excitement about that, but I was still more of a kid, whereas at this point I was getting older, and I was appreciating the promotion more. Like I said, how the trailers felt. You could feel... I can't put it into words, but I just got so excited for this film. I mean, at this point, I'd seen a few Godzilla films, like the classic Toho stuff, like on Channel 4. So I was into it. I was into my dinosaurs as well, so it all kind of scratched the same itch. And yeah, I was just ready with bells on. I wanted to see this film so bad. The soundtrack is fucking legendary. I've still got it on CD.
Have you? That's cool.
Yeah. The Jamiroquai song, Deeper Underground, you got that amazing Puff Daddy. I think it samples some of Led Zeppelin, Come With Me. It's just... That soundtrack is badass. And that, again, was a time where you had that beautiful marriage of music and films and music videos. It just... Yeah, I'm going on.
No, it's fine. I just wanted to say that I went back to listen to the soundtrack on Spotify, but half the album is missing off Spotify now, and I was a bit disappointed. Bullshit. I was like, really? I mean, maybe one or two songs, but literally half the soundtrack was just gone, and I was like, ugh, very annoying.
Yeah, I hate it.
I watching Godzilla back the other day, and I finished watching it, and I was thinking about it, and one of the thoughts that I took away from it was. It felt like Emmerich and Devlin sat down one day and was like, do you know what? I'm really pissed off that we didn't get to make Jurassic Park. I'm, oh, why does Steven, have to have, the biggest movie in this decade? Like, I wanted to do a film like that. And like, how can we try and do a Jurassic Park film of our own? And they kind of like turn to the Godzilla franchise and go, why don't we do a Godzilla film? And then like we can have this big kind of like T-Rex dinosaur roaming around New York. And then this, we turn it into iguana who can like, just lay eggs because it's like, I don't know what the official word is, but
asexual.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, they can just produce on their own. And then we can have like raptor, like baby Godzilla things like running amok in
Are you saying the whole Madison Square Garden sequence remind you of Jurassic Park? I can't figure out how. It never struck me. I won't lie. The whole sequence never struck me. Like, just
no. Oh, okay. Well,
no, trust me, I'm taking the piss.
And it just felt that's just what I felt when I just thought that this was their Jurassic Park, and just not as good, obviously, as Jurassic Park, but
no.
Do you think like the baby Godzilla, like enough? I also kind of thought, they're taking attention away from Godzilla itself, and that's what this film is all about. It's all about Godzilla. And then we have this whole like section of the film where it's all these baby Godzillas, and I'm not too sure about that whole segment. I don't know how you feel about that.
Even seeing it back in the day, and even now, it kind of doesn't sit right with me. I'm on the fence a little bit. I think they're very, very cute. It can be quite a fun scene, but at the same time, like you said, it kind of takes you away. I mean, obviously at that point in the film, we assume Godzilla's dead at the bottom of the sea, Little do we know. It almost feels like in terms of filmmaking, they knew they were struggling to keep doing action sequences where you had this massive behemoth of a monster that was, you couldn't fit in the frame. How much stuff can you do with the human characters with that kind of threat? So they had to have a smaller threat that could share the screen better with the human characters. So it makes sense in that regard, but it is a bit of a distraction, but I don't necessarily hate it. It's just, don't know. I mean, I have my opinions about Baby Godzilla, because if you see the Toho films, I don't like Baby Godzilla. He is like the Scrappy Doo of Godzilla. I just don't have time for him.
Sure.
I know some people are going to kill me for that, but it was fine. It didn't outstay its welcome. I think it goes by quicker than what you think. And then obviously it leads up to the awesome reveal where you realise, oh, yep, Godzilla's still alive. And I mean, I was hyped as hell in the cinema. I still remember when I was thinking, oh shit, is this the final act? Is this it? Yeah. They got away from Madison Square Garden, they blew it up. And then when you hear that, the roar, that low grumble, and they realise, wait a second. And I was like, yes. And the whole chase sequence is really, really good.
Yeah,
I like it a lot. It's a bit goofy in places, but it's cool. New York cab gunning it through the streets. Yeah,
again, that reminded me of Jurassic Park. Obviously where the T-Rex is chasing after him in the Jeep. It just really felt like they wanted a bit of a slice of the Jurassic Park action, but in Godzilla form.
Massively.
I did enjoy the scene where the helicopters were chasing him. I thought that was quite a cool little section of the film too. But
the military does more damage to the city than Godzilla does. It's always the way.
And I think, it has got an underlying message in some ways where it's like, we as humans are probably just as bad as the monster that's trying to kill us, even though the monster wasn't really trying to kill us.
Yeah. Which is in itself is good. They did kind of, in a way, capture the spirit of the original, because it is like, humanity is Godzilla.
Yeah.
He is the result of what we've done. And now basically we're paying the price.
But also it's a study, just like how it's a study of animal behaviour.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like, regardless of if we helped create it at all, it's still behaving as it's evolutionary tuned to behave.
Mm-hmm.
What given right do we have to assume that we are better than it or bigger than it? Like, that's where the new Jurassic Park films have lost that. They've lost that sense of awe. Come
on, Chris, there's not been a new Jurassic Park film in 21 years.
No, it hasn't. But I never had an issue with Godzilla. I have very fond memories of the film. and go and sit in the cinema and VHS and again, as you grow, I would grow up. It's very tropey, but it was a decent, solid movie. It was entertaining. It did what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean,
It gave you 2 hours of excitement and a little bit of a message at the end.
Yeah, it did what it needed to do. It was a bit of a no-brainer Hollywood action film, but like it still had the underlying message, as you said. And I guess that just because it wasn't, the true, original Godzilla. I think that's just what pissed. I think that's just what pissed a few people off, wasn't it? Like the big Godzilla fans, but
yeah,
for the general public, it was fine. It was fine.
I mean, they kept a lot of traits of Godzilla. You had the dorsal fins on the back. You had the screonk roar. I don't have any problems with the design of the creature at all. Like, it's not Godzilla, but I think it's a really sweet design.
Yeah.
And even like the animated series that came out like the same year or the following year is really bloody good. It's genuinely good.
I remember watching that before work.
It used to be on like Live and Kicking as well, didn't it? I think.
It was like on at like 8 a.m. or something. I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll watch a bit of that.
Generally good series.
But yeah, I had with Godzilla, it was a memory of where I used to live in Basildon. We only used to have like a 2-screen cinema in the town centre, but it was in this year that we had a whole new retail park built, and as part of this retail park was a new 12-screen UCI cinema. So we're very excited for this, and the opening night, the first film that they showed was Godzilla, and
nice.
I remember going to that opening, and they had the local breakfast DJ there, of course.
Is he now on a register, or is he okay?
No, I think he's all right. He's still on the radio today, so I think he's all right. His name's Martin Day, and he.
Oh, I know him.
He came and he opened the cinema, and then we all got to go in and then watch Godzilla. And I remember taking my mum to see that, and
Awesome.
Yeah, that's my cool little memory of Godzilla, seeing it at the cinema. Matty Boo on Discord said that Godzilla isn't as bad as people say it is, but no way is it a Godzilla movie. However, I really like the cartoon series that spun off from it. Is in agreement with you on that one, Rich?
Yep. And also, I don't know if you've seen, I think it came out a few years later, I think maybe 2002, 2003. Toho did another film, Godzilla Final Wars. Mm-hmm. Basically, it's almost like Godzilla just going round from country to country, just fighting like the who's who of monsters. Mm-hmm. And there's a scene I think it's in Australia, in Sydney. Godzilla arrives, and suddenly out of nowhere, the Godzilla from 1998 movie appears, and they have a fight, and Godzilla basically wastes him in about 6 seconds. Just whips him with a tail, and then just breathes atomic breath on him until he explodes. And that's it. It's just like, it's basically the Japanese being incredibly passive aggressive and bitchy. Like, fuck off. He's nothing. Trash. Yeah. So, and it was actually set to. I think it was actually set to a Sum 41 song as well, playing in the background. Cool. Yeah, it's so many things, so many emotions going on during that scene.
Yeah, I bet.
Like Sum 41, 98 Godzilla versus classic Godzilla. Sweet. And it was so quick. It was like a squash match. It was just amazing. So, so he's dead now. So.
Oh, I was going to say, like, was you quite annoyed that they never made a sequel to this film?
I was hyped as shit when they showed the egg in MSG at the end, and I was like, sweet.
Yeah, there's always an egg. There's always an egg left over.
I had to wait 16 years, and then it was a complete reboot, and a bloody good reboot of that.
Sure.
I was annoyed. It was one of those films we thought, we're getting a sequel. Never did. Like Independence Day.
Yeah.
We never did.
I'd like to know, there must be reasons why. I mean, I think it took good enough money in the box office. So I'd like to know, there must be some reasons, obviously, why it never happened.
Yeah. I mean, on a studio level, I'm sure they would have, but I think maybe Roland Emmerich and Dean Devlin, I think they're probably not the types to revisit shit. That's why it always surprised me when they went back to the Independence Day world.
Yeah.
I was really quite surprised by that. They always seem to just keep knocking out a new film each time, another disaster, another disaster, another disaster. Never.
So that's what I love with Dean Devlin and Roland Emmerich, right? They came straight in from Stargate and were like, oh my God, these guys are making these films. And that's what I loved about them. They were almost like anthology filmmakers. Like, each film subsequently was completely different to the previous one.
Yeah.
And then they got their name for disaster movies, which is a shame because they had a Ancient Aliens type alternate history movie going with Stargate. And then here they come a few years later, Godzilla, like an Americanized Godzilla. And then after that, then it became, they were synonymous with disaster movies like 2012 and Day After Tomorrow and stuff like that. And then, like you said, Rich, just now, like then they started revisiting old themes and old tropes. You're like, no, just come up with a new concept. I think they fell out, didn't they?
Yeah, it definitely went their separate ways, but then they come back together for Resurgence.
Yes, they did. Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah. What way to
Which is a shame because things like, Stargate, and it's just, I think, one of their crowning achievements visually and thematically is an amazing film. The same with all their others. And then to do these kind of anthology films, that's what they need to do. They need to just brush whatever Independence Day sequel was. Just fucking, ugh. Godzilla, yeah. I haven't watched it in a fair few years, but I've seen it so often. Like all three of these films. I'm just like, you pretty much know it verbatim, don't you?
I mean, I haven't seen this film in years, and I was really happy to have a reason to rewatch it again for the podcast, and I was really happy that I did rewatch it, and it was enjoyable. I enjoyed it. So
good.
Steven Spielberg tried to talk Emmerich out of making the film because he saw it was like trying to make Jurassic Park, but. Considering it a silly idea for Hollywood to try and remake Godzilla. Spielberg later told Entertainment Weekly that he didn't bother to see the film, stating, "The only Godzilla I saw was the one with Raymond Burr. I purposely stayed away from seeing TriStar's Godzilla because I didn't want to get anything between me and my memory of my favourite Godzilla movie of all time." So
Stephen, why did you do Mechagodzilla and that chunk of shit movie Ready Player One, eh? So some fan you are, eh, Steve? Hey.
And why did you completely rip it off in The Lost World?
I'll take 10 Godzilla 98s over one frame of that puke chunk of a movie.
Yeah, let's put the T-Rex in San Diego and, like, really? And even have someone scream Godzilla at the camera. I was like, really? Okay. Where are we going with this? Righto. And there we have the downfall of the Jurassic Park movies from that moment on.
In a television interview, Matthew Broderick said that the entire cast were given wetsuits to wear underneath their costumes while filming in Hawaii. He was upset because his wetsuit zipped up at the back, which made it difficult to put on every day. One day during a break in filming, he was talking with co-star Hank Azaria, who had his shirt off, revealing a wetsuit that zipped up at the front. Broderick remarked, "Oh, your wetsuit zips up at the front." Puzzled, Azaria said, They're all zip up in the front. Broderick had been putting his wetsuit on backwards every day. To be fair, that's probably something I would do too, so I'm with him.
Yeah.
I'm with him, don't worry.
Bless.
Released on the 17th of July 1998 with a budget of $130 million. It took in worldwide 379 million.
Ooh, that's low.
Yeah, is it low? I suppose.
Well, let's say you had to make about 3 times to break even when you factor in promotional marketing costs. So that's not great. I mean, geez.
Maybe that's why they didn't make a second then.
Yeah, it's not terrible. It's not, Ghostbusters Answer the Call money, but it's not much better.
Okay, cool. Well, let's get into our next movie. Chris, which film did you pick for 1998?
It is the X-Files' first foray into cinema. before it was called A Fight the Future.
For years, the world has seen reality distorted, facts manipulated, and truth hidden. But there's even more to the story than anyone has ever suspected. Because no one has been able to see the whole picture. Until now.
Mulder?
Cherish the past. Enjoy the present. Because the truth is coming.
I don't even know when that that subtitle happened. When did that even become a thing?
I don't know.
Because it was just, and I've even got somewhere in my collection a cutting from a magazine that just says The X-Files.
Yeah, but when I searched it on IMDb for to research some of the stuff for it, it's just called The X-Files.
Yeah, but there seemed to be this subtitle over the past decade or so, or maybe even longer. It's called Fight the Future, but I don't remember it ever having that kind of thing underneath the title until recently. I could be mistaken, so...
No, I think you're definitely right. I think it was without a subtitle at one point, and then I don't know if it's when... Oh yeah, I don't know. Who
The only
knows?
thing I can think of is it was when DVDs became popular, and to distinguish it from the box sets and the TV movies,
Yeah.
it was given that kind of like Fight the Future.
I mean, I'm not going to
This is
lie, I got
emotional.
fucking confused in Disney Plus trying to separate this from the series, and
Yeah,
I
I
want
did
to
that as
believe.
well.
I was like, which one's
why does this
which?
start? Yeah, I was like, why does this start in the movie? Like, I wanted to show.
No, seriously, I was like so confused. It just blends in. So,
Yeah, that's why I thought I'd mention it, because I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Anyone knows anything, just hit us up, message us. But yeah, I have fond memories now. You're looking at 97, 98. I was probably one of the biggest X-Files junkie you could ever want to know in this time. And then to find out that they were making a film, because it was so damn popular, I couldn't have been happier. You know, it came along at the right time, because my
In which
mum...
way?
Well, just because it was like the fandom was at its biggest, I think.
Yeah.
Before it started to die off. And David Duchovny found other things to do and other people to do. And,
Jesus Christ, no.
that was a deep cut, that wasn't it? It was... I think because we got the X-Files a couple of years after after America, especially us who didn't have satellite.
BBC Two.
And my mum introduced me to the X-Files because she was up late one night and she said, oh, yeah, it must have been like a week later, and she started recording them. And I was like, the X-Files, and this kids was before the internet, before cell phones that we know now. You couldn't just have everything in the palm of your hand in your pocket. I didn't know what the X-Files was. So I remember going to my, I had like SFX magazine and TV Zone and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I went through a couple of issues and I was like, the X-Files debuts in the UK, and I found it. And I was hooked from then on. My mum used to record them late at night. And then, what was it, 1998. So when the film was announced, we hadn't seen up to the point where the film picks up from.
Yeah, because it's in between Series 5 and Series 6, isn't it? This happens,
Yes.
the film.
Yeah.
And I remember me and my mum, This sounds really weird. It was a family thing. Me and my mum were really into the X-Files, and it was a bonding thing. Every family has them. My dad wasn't around. You know, he'd gone 2 years. No, about 3 or 4. Yeah, a year or two before the X-Files came over here. And they were releasing the VHSs of the X-Files before BBC Two were airing them.
Oh, they did the same with Star Trek, because that's how I used to consume Star Trek, by buying the VHSs.
Yeah, and Stargate SG-1 was the same. We didn't have satellite until, weirdly, I don't know if Rich remembers this, my mum took satellite TV out in August of 2001.
So sad. Yeah.
And it's very poignant that, you know, it should be the anniversary like 2 days ago. And I remember I used to have Rich run, didn't we? You used to sit and just watch Sky TV like
we did. Yeah,
all
Washington
day.
Sniper, make some chips.
Like, all day. And we happened to have the day off sixth form where the Washington Sniper happened. And we're like, what the fuck? It was 24, and I'd never experienced stuff like that in my life. Never. It was all new to me. It was like giving a child the internet. Like, there you go. Everything's here. And then we bought the VHSs, and so like we bought the TV movies that were the legacy episodes edited into one feature length.
Yeah, Tunguska and was 85271 and
82571 and Master Plan and like, all that kind of stuff. And Master Plan was the one that led into the film. These plot threads with the bees and the clones of Mulder's sister and all the other people, and yeah, we bought the VHSs and we watched them, and then like almost preparing for the film, and we went to see it, and like a lot of my friends were big X-Files fans as well, so we went as a kind of group of people from where we used to live on the a nice little community we had. It was quite nice actually, and we went to see it, and it's a very slow, talky movie, and I said it in a good way. I don't mean it's boring. I mean that it respected X-Files fans to a point where it wasn't afraid to be something it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? The X-Files is a very talky show. It's a very cerebral, very thinky show. It respects the audience's intelligence. Even though it can be tropey, even though it can be paint by numbers, which this film is very paint by numbers and tropey and hits all the right points in the right order.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's the X-Files, isn't it? You know it's going to be a complicated or plot story that they're going to try and show you. And of course, it's going to be a slow build-up. But I would say that I'd never felt bored. No. That's what I mean. It throws you in. And when you've watched so many movies, and like, I noticed it the other year when I watched it. I think when Disney when I bought Fox and uploaded them, I was like straight on. I was like, boom, X-Files marathon. And I was struck by how note by note movie scripted it was. You had the setup, you had the main characters with their like mini epic introductions.
Yeah.
You had the bomb threat in the first 5 minutes of the film. You had the setup 30,000 years in our past in what was Texas, right? So you had the ancient aliens thing within the first 5 minutes of the movie set up for you. This is 30,000 years ago. This is in Texas. This is Neanderthal man in contact with these aliens. Yeah. Cut to present day. Kids discover Neanderthal cave. Texas is now pretty much a desert and not ice covered at all. And it sets it up, and then you've got the bomb threat, and then you've got the MacGuffin, and you've got all of those tropes they're hitting the right marks at the right times. But when you give it the X-Files veneer, and you throw in all of the legacy stuff, because you could watch the X-Files, but it's episodic. You don't need to know what's going on. You can choose not to follow the legacy stuff. But that's what I love the TV movies, where they edited them into feature lengths where you could just skip all the filler episodes and just watch the legacy stuff. Fill in the gaps. And that's what we did. We bought these VHSs and we were all clued up, went to the film, and it was the quickest 2 hours of a film. But I think because I was such an X-Files obsessed person at this point in the 90s, No, seriously, it was magazines, comic books, you name it. I was all over it. Then when you have your favourite TV show be allowed to become a film, that's when it's that joke, isn't it? Your fandom's made it when they have a movie made out of your TV show, and that's what happened. Now I felt that sense of awe that, say, Star Trek fans would have done in 1979, where their favourite TV show finally becomes a movie series. And that's what I felt with this. I was like, finally, we've been loyal to the X-Files. We've watched these people grow and be knocked back and come back up again. All these conspiracy theories, all these aliens and time travel and all this cool stuff. And oh my God, it's a movie.
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling. And I haven't had it since.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a time as well before, prestige television where TV shows feel like films. I think that's what I enjoyed about watching it again, even now. I mean, never mind the fact what it was like in 1998, but this was a time where you felt that separation between TV and film.
Yeah,
so
it
when
looked
you got
stunning.
to see
it looked completely different.
It looks different. Even the actors, they kind of look different because they've got slightly different wardrobe, better makeup. It just looks more...
Different film, I guess, aren't they? And
they've got movie hair and movie filters and slow motion helicopter shots.
Yeah, you see the front of a building just get detonated by a bomb. It's like, and you can tell that everything they're shooting isn't in Vancouver. It's like, it's like, oh, this is on location. And it's such a good feeling. I mean, there's probably a multitude of examples I can think of for TV becoming films that, I think of the Power Rangers movie. That was like, oh, this isn't a TV show. Whereas now, you'd be able to separate them a little bit less because so much more goes into television.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Power Rangers Dino Storm is prestige television. It's clearly not. But the film would always look better. But yeah, if X-Files was on now, you wouldn't be able to separate it from a film that was released the same year.
These TV shows are so cinematic.
Yeah.
Like, look at what they're doing now with, Strange New Worlds is my most recent example. It looks stunning. In fact, TV or streaming shows look better than some films that you go to see in cinema.
That is true, yeah. I mean, I've heard rumours of like Stranger Things becoming, the expanding the world of Stranger Things and maybe making films from it, but it won't have that kind of... Absurd. It kind of couldn't have that kind of same impact as, say, the X-Files film, because we'll just feel like if they opened it in cinemas, we'll just feel like we're going to see the TV show, because they can't really do anything to make it feel different to what we would watch on the TV. Whereas you said about this film, and it felt a little bit like I was just watching the X-Files on the telly, but there were differences. Even now, when I watched it back on Saturday, I could still feel a difference between watching that and watching a normal TV episode.
Yeah, the scoring's different, everything. It's just...
Yeah, Mark Snow was given this amazing orchestral opportunity rather than using, like, synths and keyboards and, like, stuff like that. He actually was able to create this lovely, brooding score. And when you listen to it without the film, the score's amazing.
I did really appreciate the X-Files theme being mixed into a longer piece of music. Yeah, and it almost works as like a mid-late to an action piece. Like when they're running across the snow, or it's just, you don't think of the theme like that. You just you hear the opening theme, and all the way through the show, you always hear this like synth kind of stuff. Interweave it all the way through the score. It's just a nice little touch. But going back to the whole different from, like, I wasn't a big Star Trek fan when Generations came out, so I missed that gap. Now, if you compare it to Star Trek Next Generation, yes, Next Generation came on the coattails of the original series movies. So I wasn't around. I don't think any of us were around for the original series film, the motion picture in 1979.
No,
I was one.
Right?
So I was around, but
But to experience something that you love, go from obscurity to this massive thing, so much so that a movie studio goes, yeah, you got a movie. Now, when you watch the first Star Trek movie next to the original series, you think to yourself, is two completely different things. And it is. The motion picture looks absolutely stunning. You can mute it and just watch the visuals. The same with Next Generation. You watch Star Trek Generations, yes, they're filming on... This is where my tangent is going. They're filming on the same sets, but they are lit and painted and dressed cinematically, and they look beautiful. Now, to see the X-Files using the same sets, such as Skinner's office, and the locations, lit cinematically, very moody, and it pops. And I think also what makes you a bit disjointed as well is the cast that you have in this film. It is so far... It's the same animal, but it's also so different. You have Martin Landau, you have Blythe Danner in this film. They would never be in the show.
No.
And that's what is separating it. And like only later on in the X-Files run would it attract these big stars. Like Michael McKean would turn up in 2 or 3 episodes. But I think without the move, if the movie didn't happen, would you have those big actors in the show in its final, say, 3 or 4 seasons?
Yeah.
Would it have attracted these big actors? I don't know, but it just pops, and you have this lovely character. It's a lovely character story between Mulder and Scully.
Yeah.
Where it's just basically following them on this essential wild goose chase. There's the bomb was a cover up for an archaeological find that was in the building that was still found. And then they traced it all the way back to Texas to this site, and then the site was covered up, and then it turns out it's aliens. And this is what I mean, the X-Files always went out of its way to not show you the alien. And this is what I noticed with this film. The film version, it has to show you stuff because it's a film made for everyone, not just X-Files fans.
Yeah.
So you see the alien in the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
It attacks a Neanderthal man. You then see it again. And then you see it a 3rd time and a 4th time. And then you see the aliens in the pods when Mulder injects the antivirus cure thing. You see them again. And they go full on horror film, don't they, when the alien attacks the scientist guy and you're like...
She's cool.
I think in a way it's quite clever because it does the whole cut, so it doesn't show the whole alien, but I think it's a movie you have to... I think you're contractually obliged to show things that you wouldn't normally. It just works. And you have this lovely thing where they get closer and closer as characters as they get closer and closer to finding out what's going on. And you get that famous kiss scene, and then she's stung by a bee. And the lone gunmen make a cameo, and they smuggle him out of the hospital so he can go and find her. It's always little scenes that have to be put in there. And I don't know, it doesn't mean a lot to me as a lot of films do, but I think I was at that time of my life to experience one of my favourite shows becoming a major motion picture for the first time. I think it still has that hold on me.
What do you think about the whole like Mulder and Scully kissing kind of scene?
It was done for the film.
Was necessary?
It was done for the film because audiences are stupid and they need the protagonists to be romantically involved or have a bromance.
It is upping the stakes,
That's the only
big,
reason it happened, and it probably would never have happened in the show. But because it happened, Chris Carter had to keep going with it in the show when it came back.
Yeah, but it's... I mean, like, with the... I don't know. Maybe looking at it from, like, a general audience perspective, maybe. But, like, for people who watched... I mean, we don't need that kind of high-stakeness. We know... We're already like, oh, if something happens to Mulder or Scully, then we're going to be quite devastated. Or the tensions will be quite high in dangerous places with those characters. Yeah, I was just, don't do it, no, you know, like, it was just, that scene was just, no, I don't need this. I don't need to see these people getting together and, you know, obviously going forward. But
yeah, it works better. I hate the whole will they, won't they trope and crowd.
Especially when you've gone so long in the TV show, where the majority of the time, I mean, they're not really shown any kind of sexual attraction between each other.
No, none at all, but... It was one of those things that, like, oh, well, let's just have them kiss anyway.
Yeah.
And, like, I think as like a 13 or 14-year-old, I didn't quite understand films as much at that point as to why they would do certain things.
Yeah. I mean, I guess at that kind of age, and you're like, oh yeah, go on, two of my favourite characters are going to get together. Maybe, it was probably quite exciting. But I don't know. Looking back as an adult, you just see it in a different light, I guess.
Yeah, but I think also the clever way Chris Carter did it as well, or the director, was it Rob Bowman, who directed quite a few X-Files episodes. So maybe it was a choice by Carter or the director or anyone. The kiss became a plot point where Scully was stung.
Yeah.
But then the bee was on her for a while, so why did it sting her at that point? It's one of those things. It's a plot hole, isn't it? Like, why is this a thing?
Because the bee's a true fan and he wants to respect cinema, I don't want this lowest common denominator bullshit. Like, I'm going to sing
It's a thing
now.
because it is.
Yeah.
And you have to have the romantic scene in the trailer because people will go, oh, look at that. Espionage thriller and cover-ups and governments and bees, and let's go and see that.
He wants to preserve the integrity of the characters, it's a good
exactly. Yeah.
Rich, do you have any fond memories of the film, mate?
I like Chris. I remember being excited for this when it came out for pretty much all the same reasons. Even then, I appreciated and I was interested in the process of, TV to film, the way it would translate, the way it looked in terms of the film, the quality of it, every little bit. It was just I was obsessed with the process, and I rented this I think on a VHS back when it came out to rent, and I was obviously enthralled. But going back to it, I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like the biggest fan, and I'm the kind of person that I'm not always about I'll just make it bigger, make it better, it's a film, but I felt it kind of tied itself too much to the show. I didn't kind of necessarily like how much it felt like it was a bridge between seasons, that it wasn't just, and I'm going to say it, I really wanted it to be more of a Monster of the Week kind of affair, like I Want to Believe was. I've always enjoyed those stories more, I'm not going to lie.
I actually prefer I Want to Believe over this.
I love massive story arcs. I love that stuff. Look no further than me and modern Doctor Who. I'd rather take those episodes whenever they used to come around over 45 minutes throwaway. Next one storytelling. But yeah, I kind of wish they just did something a bit separate, removed. Hell, you could just say safer, to be honest.
But that's what they did. They, in a way, painted themselves into a corner where the trailer is very misleading. And then you go in there and you think to yourself, well, I don't know what's going on in any of this. Who are these old guys that are meeting in this stuffy old place?
Yeah.
With these varnished wood walls? Like, it's said, but it's never explained. You just assume that you need to know. And like Rich said, it would have worked. I think, looking back at it now as a teenager or whatever, I was clued up on the X-Files, so I saw it as a very an extension of the show, whereas I've never really spoken to people who haven't been fans of it and see it as more of a companion piece. I'd be interested to go back and look at reviews of people who had not seen an episode of the X-Files, but like Rich said, it tied itself too much to the lore. Whereas
it would have been a good opportunity, a great opportunity, like to do a Monster of the Week and show people who haven't jumped into the X-Files what it's about at the beginning, and what it could be.
And I think what Chris Carter was also tapping into was, at the time, it was early days of the internet that we know it today, so it was all conspiracies, and we're not being told this, and we didn't do that, and it's just like, and I think it relied too much on the tropiness of crackpots and that kind of setup. And I'm trying to think of an X-Files. If anyone can think of an X-Files episode that they would rather see as a film adaptation than what we had in 1998, Tombs, yes, would have been fantastic.
I think Darkness Falls would have worked quite nicely.
Yeah, or anything like that. That kind of like bridging on horror, but you have the two agents trying to solve it, and then I don't know. I think firing out a movie bang smack in the middle of a few seasons of a show.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much an adaptation as, like I said, a companion piece.
Yeah.
Could be a bad idea and also a good idea at the same time for publicity. But a bad idea because the show is so well established that...
I mean, I guess if they did do a movie of the week, Monster of the Week, then may not necessarily have had the plot holes that the film did have. You know, like I watched it back and like 1 minute they're in the Arctic and then boom, they're like back in Washington, wherever they are, and I was like,
the close of the film, that's sort of the.
I was like,
the sources
how the
take you
hell
off
did they get out of that situation? You know.
Yeah, and it's one of those travel at the speed of plot moments, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
I don't know. It's one of those, but then I think back to, if you think about X-Files was one of the first shows to almost work with the storytelling, the season long arc, if you will, and I think Star Trek translated better to the screen from TV because it was always episodic. So you could do a villain of the week or an alien of the week and it would work in a film because you could upscale the budget and get massive actors to come in and play the villain of the piece. And it's been the same ever since Ralph Kahn. And I think with the X-Files, it's so bogged down in the story arc that it loses itself somewhat, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
it's too intertwined. Even if you did do a Monster of the Week story, there'd still be people going, "Well, who are these people?" Because it doesn't even explain it for the audience who don't know what the X-Files is.
Yeah,
you just go in to assume that.
Yeah, it's a troubling problem for any movie coming from a TV show, isn't it? You've got to please the general population, but then you've also got to please the diehard fans as well, because if there's certain characters in there, or this isn't there, and that those people will be upset, and then but you've still got to make it accessible for people who don't know the show as well, to make it a success in the box office. It's a very hard juggling act, I can believe, with any kind of TV to movie adaptation. So
flood all the message boards and AOL chats with their anger and rage. So
well, it's like for instance, like the new Quantum Leap show that's coming out. Like the amount of I didn't realise how toxic fan bases could be everywhere.
Oh,
you don't think you don't think of Quantum Leap as having a toxic fan base, but Jesus Christ, some of the stuff I've seen
is it because he's Asian
on Twitter and I'm like, what? Really? Like, oh my god! Like the show hasn't even aired an episode, and you guys are jumping down each other's throats.
Everyone's very judgmental,
Chill
That's sad.
Fuck out.
Yeah.
Right. And everyone's like, you can't replace them. Like, they're not replacing them.
Yeah, they see, and then when they actually see the show or play the video game, they're like, shut up, because like they've got nothing to argue for, because actually it's not as bad as they thought it was going to be.
No.
Like,
Has anyone used the word woke yet? I'm sure they have.
Well, let's leave the toxic people alone, shall we?
We've got a few more days until the first episode. I'm kind of excited.
Sure.
Me too.
It's a sequel show. It's not a reboot. They're not deleting everything.
No, because he's looking for Sam Beckett, isn't he?
Yeah, or they're interested in what they're trying to. I think they're trying to unlock what makes, like, what happened. But no one knows anything because the first episode hasn't goddamn aired yet. So when everyone stops
exactly, being
arseholes to each other.
Sam Beckett's working in the old folks' home in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So
sweeping the floor. Yeah.
It's canon. It's canon.
I love that cameo. It was the most batshit crazy idea they've ever done. It's like,
it's fucking
what
canon.
The fuck? And it's like, what the hell's a quantum leap? Oh.
Well, one more thing I just wanted to mention about the X-Files movie, and I did appreciate the scene where Mulder has to go for a pee outside the bar, and he pees up the Independence Day poster.
Oh, God. Yeah, I howled when I saw that. I howled.
Probably one of the best parts of
They
the
show
film.
it twice, don't they? Where he's just taking a pee and it just zooms in on the poster and then zooms out to.
Sure. Yeah.
And then the other guy takes a pee up against the same poster. It's like, what the fuck?
I did like that touch. I did think that was pretty good. But Gillian Anderson Lee's favourite aspect of the shoot was the sequence where Mulder and Scully are running through a field of cornstalks. As she was running behind the much taller David Duchovny, she kept getting smacked in the face by the leaves. Bless her.
Oh, so tiny, bless her.
At the end of the scene with the chasing of the white trucks, Mulder and Scully have a talk. The cuts showing Mulder talking by the roadside had lights in the background that needed to be removed in post-production. 24 frames per second at about $1,000 per frame. Chris Carpenter on the commentary admits this $25,000 a second mistake in filming was a bad one.
Ooh, ouch.
Ow.
Released on the 21st of August of 1998 with a budget of $66 million, it took in $189 million worldwide.
It's weird. You always think when these things are like a cultural phenomenon, you just expect it to fucking just blow up at the box office, you know, make like 400, 500 million, but incredibly modest.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is all, according to IMDb. So, take it with a pinch of salt, I guess. And let's just jump into the last film that we're going to talk about on this episode, and that is my pick, and that is, of course, The Truman Show.
30 years ago, the Omnicam Corporation created the ultimate reality-based television experience, The Truman Show. Beginning with a child's birth, they set out to document an entire human life. Every single moment broadcast live to the world. They created his hometown of Sea Haven. All of it completely enclosed within the dome of the Truman stage.
Cue the sun.
And even though The Truman Show has become an international phenomenon, Truman himself has never learned the true nature of the world around him.
It's television! Yes!
Despite some close calls. Every aspect of his life has been carefully scripted and meticulously crafted. But the one thing no one could predict was who Truman Burbank would grow up to be.
Good morning!
Morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
I hereby proclaim this planet Trumania of the Burbank Galaxy. Trumania, Trumania, I love and honor you.
Now, I was originally going to pick The Big Lebowski for my pick of 1998, but when Rich mentioned it in the WhatsApp, because it was going to be his original pick, so I stole it from him. And because I saw it and I started thinking about it a little bit more, and although The Big Lebowski is an amazing film, I think The Truman Show I think I just had a lot more to say about The Truman Show than I would about The Big Lebowski.
Yeah.
And when I thought about it, it was like, it was the first time that we kind of saw Jim Carrey kind of doing mostly serious acting. And it was a great platform for him to show that he's not just this kind of like goofy comedic actor, who can seem to bend in ways in which people shouldn't. But so I think that's one of the memories I took from the film, looking back at it, and like he did an amazing job, and I think that's why I kind of wanted to pick this film, because I really just wanted to talk about that in on itself, and not just on the film as well, but just on Jim Carrey's acting, and like he did such a great job, like showing people that he can actually be more than what he had been previously.
Indeed.
And of course, that the whole idea of this Truman Show thing, and like, I suppose in 1998, reality TV wasn't around, when we didn't really know much about that at all, and all that was still to come. And this was kind of like a taste of things to come for us in some ways. Maybe not on the grand scale of the Truman Show, but we've had many different weird reality shows in the past 20 odd years since the Big Brother started. And I think watching it back today, and like, I think it's more relevant now than it was in 1998. And I don't know, it made me feel like what lengths would us that we would go to for entertainment, I guess, because I think that was one of the more powerful parts of Jim Carrey's acting, was like he really made you feel sorry for him. Like he really made you think about his life in this kind of fake world, and like you just felt really sorry that this person had been put in this situation and he didn't even know. Like the whole premise is like, oh, we're just going to follow this person throughout his life from baby to whenever, and but then they started to like fabricate his life. They started to like push him more towards, you know, like Evelyn, his wife, instead of to Sylvia, who he really obviously fancied and wanted to be with, and other such things to help keep the ratings going and make it more exciting for the viewer and such. And and then when I'm watching the film as well, and I'm looking at the people watching the TV, I felt a little bit, why are you watching this? kind of thing, you know, like you're watching this person. It's kind of like watching this person being, I don't know, like he's suffering in some ways, like he's being caged and stuff. And I all these thoughts going through my head, and like watching it now as an adult, it's such a much more powerful film than I ever remembered it to be.
I think it's just more relevant now than it ever was even then when it came out, because of how much more reality TV has exploded and people are watching stuff that deep down I think they know it's not real. Are you watching like Duck Dynasty or some of the Kardashians? You know it's so fabricated, but people watch it and they hoover it up like it is a fly on the wall. And it's like, it's just, why do you watch it? But
and also it could be a commentary on social media. Now, I've completely taken a back seat with social media the past 2 years, as you guys know. Like, I just couldn't deal with it. I was just like, I came off of everything, and the amount of things that people share, and then things like Facebook will then share their data or whatever, and then Google is doing the same shit, is very similar, because we know more about people's lives that we don't even know just through their social media. Just through what you see on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, or all the other social platforms. It's kind of the same thing. People are just addicted to things that other people are doing and they're not. It's weird.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
But that's...
And this film is that.
I mean, as a kid or teenager, when I watched it, it was oh, cool. This is a cool concept for a film. And, you know, and I enjoyed it for what it was. You know, oh, cool, they're following this guy's life, and that makes for an interesting film. And like he finds out that he's, you know, in this fake world and everything, and he escapes. But watching it back today, it just like so much more powerful to me than it ever has been before. But I mean, it's such a clever film, and like the way that they filmed it and everything else was fantastic, and the way that the most of the film was like they were using the hidden cameras that the viewer would see, so it really kind of helped you go into the world. And this kind of like whole, like, I don't know, was a bit of a 1960s kind of vibe going to
got that really saccharine kind of Pleasantville. Everything's just
I love that
white
that
picket
aesthetic.
fence. Everything's
I
everyone's
love
very
that
happy
aesthetic for this film.
Yeah,
I mean, this film is a favourite in our house. We kind of watch it maybe once a year. My other half, she likes it, and we both like it. And it's showing what Jim Carrey would do with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and it's that systematic. What I like about it is that systematic breakdown of structure, because everything's working fine until someone plants it in his head that it might not be. Because I think he starts seeing things or hearing things that he shouldn't be.
Well, it's like right at the beginning of the film, a spotlight falls down out of the sky, and then like they try and cover it up by it being like some things falling out of an airplane that flew over the town.
And it's all becomes clear when he keeps saying, you're scared of water. You can't go across water. And he's like, yeah, okay. And he starts doing that whole, if I must, I must. And then all of a sudden it's just like, what I love is when you watch that systematic breakdown of structure where you can plan for everything apart from things that you don't see coming. Because they're all the actors and producers and stagehands are so complacent with routine that when that routine is broken, it is a snowball and it just breaks apart. And
I guess that was a good example is like the bus driver, because he gets a bus ticket to Chicago, and like he gets on the bus, and then the bus driver's going, I don't know what to do. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how to drive this bus, and like he's grinding the gears, and and then eventually like he just blows it up or whatever, and it's like, oh, we can't go to Chicago. Sorry, guys, everyone off the bus,
And when he goes into the because like they're so used to his routine of what he does at what certain time, because they have honed him since a child to do these things routinely, and then he breaks that routine and goes to book a holiday. Just goes into book. Was it a holiday agent, isn't it? And she's got.
Yeah, he wanted to go to Fiji.
She's got that makeup guard on her costume, where they're obviously, and she's like, "What's going on?" And but she couldn't get the prompts from the people backstage or offset because they didn't know what was going on themselves. And then you just see that systematic, complete and utter shutdown of everything. And then that's where Truman's starting to go, why would you say that? Or why would I remember it this way and this memory's not real? It's just, what are these photographs of? Like, he starts piecing it together. It's just a lovely study of kind of captivity.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's quite weird when you look at it and you think to yourself, do animals go through this?
Well,
because they might.
But that's the power of this film. Like, it makes you ask these kind of questions. And I think that's the biggest surprise to me when I rewatched it, was I didn't expect to have these kind of questions when I walked away from watching this film. And I even had the questions of like where the dad comes back. Like, I think the actor breaks into the set or whatever, and he was trying to tell him or whatever. But I put myself in his shoes and thinking, like, well, this actor must have taken care of Truman for through his childhood.
Yeah, he's teasing him as an actual real son.
Yeah, and then he then gets written out of the show because they need it to be dramatic, and like wants to give Truman this fear of water so he doesn't think about leaving this town. So they drown the father. And it's, and that means the actor has to leave. But that actor, has brought up Truman. He must have emotional connections to him now, and everything else. And like, I put myself in his shoes and thinking, my God, what kind of emotional ride has he been on, and stuff like that.
It's, put it this way: ask anyone you know that have adopted a child,
sure,
and say, have you watched the Truman Show?
Yeah.
And it's the same energy of that actor who's like, do you know what? I need to tell him what's going on because you can't treat human beings like this. And that's what I said. Like, but we treat animals. We treat birds, elephants, tigers. Like, does an elephant go through the same stuff as Truman? I suppose a bit of balance on this ball now, and I'll get a peanut or a banana. It's crazy.
It's crazy.
You don't think about that. Because you think to yourself, oh, we live in our normal free will, but do we have free will? Is free will an illusion? And this is what this film asks, and kind of answers that some people don't, until it's too late, or until they have to find out the hard way. And what I love about it is the Ed Harris's character is portrayed through the whole film as this bureaucrat, capitalism. We need viewers, we need drama, intrigue, all of that. But at the end, you realise that he's a nice guy who cares for Truman a great deal.
That's the only thing I didn't like about. One thing I didn't like about the Christoph character, I didn't like when he tried to kill him. He didn't he tried to kill him at the end. That to me, that kind of still bothers me today. It felt like it didn't quite gel with the character they were building up. He never seemed that callous. Like, I must kill my creation. He can't leave. Like, I never quite got his motivation for that. But at least it ended on a nice note. So
yeah, and like, I was quite frustrated in some ways. You know, I would really love to see what Truman thought of the real world. I just would love to have followed him as that character and just to see his amazement or frustrations or whatever would to come emotionally from him walking through that door and onto the set. And like,
but I like the ending as it is. Like,
yeah, I mean,
like, would you change the ending to Monsters Inc?
Oh God, no. That film.
Would you want to see it from Sully's point of view when him and Boo sit down and she fills him in on what she's been up to while he's been gone? It's that ambiguous ending where you're just like, come in, Truman, we have a lot to talk about. It's a lovely ending.
It is, yeah. It's just my fascination. It's my wonder of seeing further.
What would you do? Yeah,
but yeah, it is the right way to end the film. It was just, I think I got so involved and so connected to that character in that an hour and 40 minutes. And like I said, I felt so sorry for him as Truman, that I kind of closure for me and my emotions maybe just to see him go through that door and what will be lying on the other side. But yeah, you're right. It was the right way to end that film. It's left to your own imaginations, I guess, isn't it? You can just make that up for yourself on what would happen. And you know, I would never like to see a sequel to this film. I think as a one film, it's as it stands, it's fine, it's perfect. We don't need a sequel to see that, I guess. But yeah, just for my own personal closure, I think that's just what I needed to see. But I mean, like, other parts of the film were really good, and like, you know, there were still Jim Carrey-esque moments that I really enjoyed. You know, you can't take Jim Carrey out of Jim Carrey, but I really kind of like the product placement kind of things that they used to do, and you know, like Truman's trying to have this serious conversation with Evelyn, and like she's just whipping around and like trying to do a product placement for some hot chocolate or something or other. I can't remember what it was.
It's the little things as well, like when he's like routine like breakfast every morning, he always has a vitamin D, and because there is no real sunlight, you don't really think about it at the time. You just think, oh, we all take vitamins. It's like, well, yeah, for him, he's under like a lamp all day. You know, he's just getting studio lights on him. It's you don't really think about it, and it's like, oh yeah,
you know. And he always meets those two old twins guys walking to work, and they always push him towards the billboard with a different advert in every time and stuff like that. I quite appreciate that kind of stuff. And I just want to also mention the music. I guess the soundtrack to the film. There was a couple of pieces of music that was really good. I can't. You know, memory-wise, I just didn't really remember the soundtrack either. But watching it back, there was a couple of pieces that were just really on point.
Someone made a really interesting take on the movie, saying about how, like, I read this a little while back, saying about how one of the small things that you don't really hear people talk about, one of the small background details, is that there aren't any cats in Truman's World, which I know sounds really odd. But
yeah, I guess. Yeah,
that they consciously made.
Never noticed.
They say that in the fact that they consciously made an effort, basically, not to have any cats in Sea Haven because they're too hard to train. Because there's a bit where you see the dog fancy. You see the dog fancy magazine celebrating dogs, and there's lots of people in town that have dogs.
Yeah.
And how Truman never actually seemingly ever had a pet dog, but everyone else did.
Yeah,
it just kind of little things like that. Maybe you're looking too much into it, but that's part of the wonder of it. Is you're kind of creating things where maybe they aren't actually even relevant, but you're kind of building that world. You're kind of building a logic around the production and the things they did do, things they didn't do. What were the motivating reasons as to why? And you know, when it's in a really controlled environment like it is, I don't know. That's what makes the film so goddamn fascinating and pretty damn amazing. It's
it's
weird stuff like that.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it's jumped top into one of my most favourite films, I think, now, after rewatching it. And that's one of the things I'm really enjoying about this journey of this podcast and revisiting some of these films and just seeing it in a different light. And The Truman Show is definitely one of those. And it's a definitely high recommendation from me to just go and watch it and take what you want out of that film, because it's really kind of a special film.
Also, fun fact, the guy is that one scene with the guy who's clinging onto the shower curtain. That was the guy who played Napoleon in Bill and Ted. So, fun fact.
Love it, mate. Love it. Brilliant. When Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert reviewed the film, they not only gave the film 2 thumbs up, but they gave an on-air apology to Jim Carrey for saying that he would never have a career when they panned Ace Ventura: Pet Detective in 1994. Which is always a good time when you can shut up Roger. Roger Ebert. I don't know how to pronounce his surname. Is it Ebert?
Ebert. I never brought him up in Godzilla, did I?
No.
Ron Emmerich's very bitchy portrayal of him as Mayor Ebert.
Is that based on him, is it? That's brilliant.
Yeah. Because even his assistant was called Gene, as in like Gene Roper. So it's
really?
just
that's brilliant.
Incredibly, bitchy.
It's brilliant. According to a 2008 New York Times article, psychologists in Britain and the US reported a number of people experiencing Truman syndrome, or the Truman Show delusion, the belief that they are the unwitting star of their own reality TV show. Reportedly, many afflicted specially mentioned the film in therapy. More recently, on September the 16th, 2013, the detailed account of one Ohio student who suffered for years from the Truman Show delusion was documented in the New Yorker magazine article under Unreality Star by Andrew Marans. But just reading that fact alone just made, just everything we've already said about the film. But I don't know, it's kind of spawned a condition.
I know, simulation theorists have been around for over 100 years now, but I didn't know it was that recent.
Released on the 9th of October 1998 with a budget of $60 million, it took in worldwide $264 million.
Wow.
So, not bad. See, that one's the most profitable of all the movies.
I would say so.
More than Truman.
Definitely, yeah.
No, there's that cheap knockoff about a year later called Ed TV, wasn't there?
Fucking hell.
It's like, it's 2 completely different animals. You got this lovely little quaint film about this guy who's basically followed since birth to a guy who goes, yeah, I'll do 24-hour TV coverage for money. Wow.
But it kind of gets to show, like with the X-Files had $66 million budget, and it took in the $189 million. And then, Truman had $6 million less with just $60 million and managed to pull in more. So it's strange, isn't it? Box office figures are just weird. If you've got any thoughts or opinions on the films that we've covered on this episode, please do let us know. The usual channels, on Twitter. Email us at thewolfiepod@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts, and we'll share them. We'll share them on the next episode. But that's all the time we have for this one. Thank you, as always, to everyone for joining us. And if you have enjoyed the podcast and would like to support us, then we do have a coffee page where you can give us a one-off tip, or if you're feeling kinder, a monthly tip starting from £1. A massive thank you to you all who have done so. You're all legends. If that is not right for you right now, you can also support us by giving us a review or rating on Apple, Spotify, or Podchaser. You can find the links in the show notes. Our Discord server is open to chat all things retro and modern day pop culture with us and other like-minded people. Please come and say hi by hitting the link in the show notes or on our website. And speaking of the website, please go and visit that at thewolfiepod.com. You will find links to everything that I've already mentioned, our entire back catalogue of episodes, and some articles that I've written, a review of a video game and a article about Noel's House Party that I started writing 2 years ago. So I finally got around to, I finally got around to plucking up the courage to finish it and put it out to the world to read. So I hope that if you do go and check it out, then I hope you'd like it. You can find, like I say, you can find that on the website. Next time, we delve into the world of 1998 TV. Chaps, it's time to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
And if I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
My name has been Jason. Dom, it's over to you.
Well, that's it for another episode of What's Wrong with Wolfie. The boys are off now to hit the roulette table with Patricia Routledge. See you later.
Hey, Janelle. What's wrong with Wolfie? I can hear him barking.